Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the Flight Sim community. This is Shark95, and today we're back with our 50 states and 50 streams. Yes, guys, this will be our last U.S. state to cover here today. This won't be the final stream of the series. That will be on Sunday, of course. But today we're in our last state, the beautiful U.S. state of Hawaii. That's right, we're going to fly from island to island in this beautiful U.S. state. We're nearly done with this series. So I can't believe we're nearly done with all. So we're here in beautiful Hilo, Hawaii, on the big island of Hawaii, and today we're going to fly over every single major island here in Hawaii today. So we're going to go from one end of Hawaii all the way to the other end. So guys, I hope you're all doing well here today, and I hope you all are enjoying yourselves here on this Friday stream. I know the weekend is about to kick off here. So before we get started, I do want to go over today's flight plan today. So here's our flight plan. So we'll start here in Hilo, and we'll fly around Mauna Kea today. We're just gonna fly around Mauna Kea today. Go from here to here. And we'll make a pit stop here at Kona Airport. Just a quick pit stop. We might just take off and go. Then from there, we're going to head up into the island of Kauai just for a brief flyover before making our way to our first stop here in Maui. And we're going to go ahead and make our stop here at Kalui Airport for our first full stop of the day. From there, we'll make our way west. We'll fly over the island of Lanai. Then we'll go over to Molokai, fly around this area for a bit. And then we'll make our way over to Honolulu, which now just got photogrammetry, so we'll fly around Honolulu. And we'll make our second full stop here at Ford Island Airport, home of the Pearl Harbor National Memorial and Battleship Missouri Memorial. We'll land here at Ford Island. Finally, from Ford Island, we'll make our way across here and fly our way to the island of Kauai. We'll fly over Lihu before going over Waimea Canyon to our final stop at Barking Sands Airport for the U.S. missile range. So yeah, that's going to be our flight plan. A pretty simple one. But we'll fly over all of the islands. So we're going to say hello to all the people in chat. Good to see you, Shirley Death. Yes, we're about 98% complete. We just got 2 more streams left in this series. I'm getting ready to start a new series very shortly. And hello to all the lurkers, including my moderator, Super Typhon. Good to have you. Okay. So we'll take the Beechcraft Baron with us today. I think this would be a really great aircraft for today. The good old Baron, very reliable, very effective plane. I thought it would make sense to take the Baron out here today. This part of so we're at Kona International Airport here this morning. We're at actually Hilo International Airport today. So Hilo International is one of the air gateways to the Big Island. It's one of the 2 airports that connect to the Big Island. The other one is actually the much more popular Kona Airport, which we will be flying to. Of course, this airport opened back in the 1920s. However, this is actually the Hawaii airport that's had the most issues. It's compared to the other Hawaii airports. Hilo is the only airport in Hawaii that doesn't have flights to North America, and I think it has to do with noise issues, with the noise regulations, and I think it's also this area hasn't been as developed compared to that of Kona, but it's still a pretty cool little airport we can fly over. And Hilo is actually the largest settlement in the Big Island. despite Kona being the bigger airport, Hilo is the largest settlement with 44,000 people. It's the fourth largest settlement in the state. The largest settlement outside of Oahu, the main island. It overlooks Hilo Bay and has views of both Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea. And it's home to the University of Hawaii of Hilo, the Imola Astronomy Center, the Merry Monarch Festival, and more. So that's kind of it about Hilo in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and get taken off here. For altitude, I think 10,000 feet should be pretty good for the first section of the lake. I forgot to update my stream elements. I mean, for 10,000. Here. We're gonna go ahead and see if anyone else join on in. If you guys want to join on in, we're the Southeast Asia server. We're about to make our flight in Hawaii. So, up, max throttle, and we're gonna get ready. So on our way over, we're gonna be flying over. We're gonna see the two major volcanoes, Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea. Now, of course, we'll be visiting these volcanoes again when we go to the National Park Series. We'll be flying over the Big Island exclusively. So, as we climb to 10,000 feet and climb up to there, or maybe 9,000 feet. So if you look to our right, we could see one of the big volcanoes here in Hawaii. If you look to our right, we can find Mauna Kea to our right. This dormant volcano is 13,000 above sea level, making it the highest point in the state. However, the really fun fact is, believe it or not, it's actually one of the most topographically prominent mountains in the world. It's 15th. However, if you measure, however, the base of this mountain is not actually inland. It actually goes all the way down underwater. And as a result, it is around 30,000 feet from its base under the ocean to the top, which is only rivaled by Mount Everest. So technically, some authorities might even say this is the tallest mountain in the world, if you count it by its base underwater. Due to that. But this island's also around over a million years old, and it's the most active shield life hundreds of thousands of years ago. And of course, this island is also very notable for the native Hawaiians as a very sacred place. For a lot of the natives, they view this as a very sacred mountain. It's one of its 5 sacred mountains, and of course, is the most sacred mountain in Hawaii. As a result, there are restrictions on visitor rights to visit this area. And due to this, there's been a lot of issues with Mauna Kea nowadays, especially with the Conservation Corps and the astronomy places. But this is one of the big volcanoes. Pretty important stuff. So you look at the size. The other mountain, the other volcano to your left, that is Mauna Loa. This area is actually part of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, by the way. And don't worry, when we do the national park series, we're going to put opportunities. We're going to land and explore these areas quite a bit. So we have plenty of opportunities to do that here when that time comes. Yeah, what a beautiful area of the world, got. Hawaii. My parents actually visited Hawaii once. They visited Maui, of course, which was definitely pretty nice. But of course, I do want to check out Hawaii, but I want to visit Honolulu and check out what's in Honolulu. Pearl Harbor, all the areas around this area. Maybe Kauai would be really cool to visit. And of course, the Big Island would be a lot of fun to visit myself. Really isn't too much, but you can definitely tell from these places we're going to be playing a role. So of course, next week's streams, we're gonna finally get started on 2 of our new series. On Friday, our first country we'll be visiting next Friday will be Afghanistan. We'll be flying, um, from Herat over to Kabul. We'll start in Herat, go over to the east, and then we'll fly our way to Kabul and make our way over to Afghanistan. And then, of course, next Sunday will be the National Park Series. We'll actually be doing a prologue of our National Park series. Yes, we have a prologue we're going to be doing. We'll talk about the National Park Service and what they've done, their history. It'll be a GA flight for Boise over to Butte, Montana. We'll be going to Berkeley Pit. But yes, we'll be doing some flying over to prepare for the first leg over to Yellowstone. Possibly the world's first national park ever. So that is what we're going to be doing here in this series. So let's go ahead and talk about Kona. This will be our very first stop of the day. Our first, we'll do a quick landing at touch and go here at Kona Airport. This area is on the west side of the island. It's the second largest settlement in the Big Island after Hilo, and is a center of the tourism commerce of the Big Island. Actually, it's also got the main Kona Airport that serves this area. But this area really grew over the last couple of years. It's home to many attractions and events, including the annual Ironman World Championship Triathlon, the Kona Coffee Festival, and the Hawaiian International Billfish Tournament. And of course, there's quite a bit of coffee grown in this area, but also beautiful scenic byways and more. And of course, our airport is Ellison Onizuka Kona International. And this airport is the main gateway to the west side of the island. It's actually now the more popular of the two airports. It's 3 million more than Hilo. But this airport has been around since 1970. It serves North Kona and more. And this area is actually very busy compared to Hilo. And it's actually grew a lot of the tourism from east to west Hawaii. And it's grown over the years, and it's now served all over many U.S. destinations, including many in the state like Honolulu, Kauai, Lihu, Waimea, and more. But of course, this area also serves a lot of U.S. airports domestically: L.A., Portland, San Francisco, San Diego, San Jose, Seattle, Phoenix, and Las Vegas. But yeah, this is by far the busier of the two airports in the Big Island. Plus, you can actually take airliners as big as a 777 and 787. So yes, this airport can actually take surprisingly a large amount of planes. Now, I would like to have a new U.S. hub in Hawaii. I think that would be a really cool area to have a hub, because you can do flights across from the United States. It also is a hub for all sorts of Pacific flights. For example, for Japan, Australia, Southeast Asia. It would be really cool. Even maybe even some of the South American destinations too. It could be like a little hub gateway. Would be pretty cool. pretty cool stuff here. You can definitely tell this is a beautiful island. Send down to 2,000 feet. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys have some really cool plans this weekend. Murph's going to be on today. He's going to be doing his Warbird stream. Of course, Two-Tone Murphy, if you guys aren't aware, a legend in the flight sim community, definitely the big GA flight simmer community. Saturday, Allison Johnson's going to be back for another one of her historical flights once again. But she's now up to 3 days a week now. But this weekend, she's going to be doing another leg of her Jennifer Murray flight. She'll be doing one of her new flights this Saturday. For her historical flights. Oh, she'll be doing on August 2nd tomorrow. She'll be doing a flight from Yuzhno, Russia, over to Okha, the Russian authorities again. So she'll be back on Sunday, on Saturday, of course. So apparently there's some interesting stuff in the news. One big one is that Newcastle has been released for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Miltech has their MH-60 helicopter. And Cohenson brought in a new chopper, the S-76C, into the simulator. Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm still waiting for the 7.3. Here it is, guys. It's Kalui Kona. Alright, guys, we're about to arrive at our first stop for a touch and go. But actually, we're going to stop here for just a second. We're just going to do a touch and go. I hope you guys are enjoying this. There's not really much news going on. For Major League Baseball, there really isn't too much going on right now. Just a bit of trades and stuff. Not really a big deal. So, not really too much going on. I know this month is going to be the Premier League. It's only going to happen just not too much longer, is the Premier League. It's only going to be about 2-3 weeks, about 2 weeks away from the start of the Premier League season with Liverpool and Bournemouth. Um, so it should be pretty fun this year. For the predictions this year, for the Premier League, of course, there's definitely a lot of people who predict this season, but official predictions. There have been many fans who predicted it. Go ahead and land. This will be our first stop. We'll just take a brief. We'll stop here for just about a minute or two. So this here is Kona Airport. Yeah, you can see the beautiful view of Mauna Lea on the back. Yeah, there are some people who predicted the Premier League. According to the odds makers, they said Liverpool is likely to defend the league title, with Arsenal being second, and then with Manchester City third. So that'll be the top three. And then they said the three relegated sides will be Wolverhampton, Burnley, and Sunderland. So yes, they actually said Leeds is likely to stay up, according to the bet odds. According to the bet odds, yeah, that's right. Leeds, one of the promoted sides, might actually stay, which is crazy to think about. Leeds United remaining in the Premier League, that would be a pretty big thing, because the last couple years, whoever gets promoted is going to get relegated. So it might look like that's likely to change this. But I also followed some of the other leagues this year. The Spanish league, in La Liga, the Spanish league, they said the top team is going to be predicted to be Barcelona and Real Madrid top two. How daring. How ambitious. And of course, the Bundesliga would be Bayern Munich, because it's Bayern Munich. The last time a non-Bayern Munich team had won was Bayer Leverkusen. Not very long. We're going to go ahead and prepare to take off. We're going to head over to our first full stop, of course, in Lahaina. So I think we're going to go around 4,000 feet. So we're going to go ahead and talk about Hawaii for a bit as we fly up to 4,000 feet. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our U.S. state for today. So Hawaii, speaking of which, is our last of the states to be admitted to the Union, and it's probably the most remote state in the mainland. It's about 2,000 miles southwest of the U.S. mainland. Again, it's like one of our two non-contiguous states, along with Alaska, and it's the only state not on the North American mainland. The only state in the archipelago that's an archipelago and is in the tropics. The state consists of 137 volcanic islands that comprise the entire archipelago, except the Midway Atoll. Of the 50 U.S. states, Hawaii is actually the fourth smallest in land area and the 11th least populous. However, it's ranked 13th in population density because most people live on the island of Oahu, home to the capital largest city in the state, Honolulu. It's one of our most demographically diverse U.S. states due to lots of migration over the centuries. It was originally settled by Polynesians. It was home to notable chieftains. Of course, Hawaii was actually once a kingdom, but of course that has been overthrown since the 20th century. Of course, historically, Hawaii's economy was dominated by plantations. However, nowadays it's diversified with tourism and military defense now being the two largest sectors of Hawaii's economy. Tourism is a big deal due to its scenery, more tropical climate, olive beaches, oceanic surroundings, and clear skies. And it's host to the U.S. Pacific Fleet, the large naval command of the United States Navy. However, it also has the highest cost of living in the United States, third wealthiest state as well. Yeah, Hawaii, very interesting state. And there's a lot of history to talk about in Hawaii, of course. So starting off, of course, Hawaii is one of two U.S. states to be an internationally recognized sovereign nation, the other one being Texas. Of course, the date was around 12,000 BC. But of course, the earliest habitation of Hawaii is around 1,000 to 1,200 CE by the first wave of Polynesian settlers from the Marquesa Islands, and a second wave from Raiatea and Bora Bora of the French Polynesia back in the 11th century. Of course, the island's history was marked by slow, steady growth and population size of the chiefdoms, which grew to encompass the whole islands. Local chiefs ruled these settlements and launched wars to expand their influence and defend their communities from predatory rivals, and much of ancient Hawaii was a caste-based society, just like those of India. One big part of population growth was facilitated by the ecological and agricultural practices that combine upland agriculture, ocean fishing, fish ponds, and gardening systems, and were upheld by spiritual and religious beliefs that linked the cultural continuity with the help of the natural world. So basically, they were one with nature. Of course, there was some possible European contact back in the 15th century, mainly Spanish ships. However, the first recorded contact happened in 1778 by British Captain James Cook, when he encountered Hawaiian Islands simultaneously while crossing the Pacific during his third voyage. And his first documented contact, he named the archipelago the Sandwich Islands after his sponsor. Of course, he returned back the next year to resupply for 1 month. Of course, Cook was actually killed among those people the next year when James Cook was actually killed in Hawaii, when violence broke out between the British and local Hawaiians. After his visit, the Hawaiian Islands was not revisited over the years, of course. However, they became more frequent. and the maritime fur trade developed those areas, bringing in North America and Asia, bringing many ships in the Pacific. And as a result, foreign contact slowly grew, and foreigners imported a lot of tools, diseases, and war. Of course, around this time that the Europeans came, Hawaii became a kingdom with the house after fighting with the chieftains. Eventually was ended in 1795 when Kamehameha achieved Hawaiian Island, conquered most of the main islands, and founded the Hawaiian Kingdom in the house of the Kamehameha, a dynasty that ruled all the way until 1862. That's right, Hawaii was a kingdom. Many people, even from those, don't even realize about it. Of course, after Kamehameha inherited the throne in 1819, American Protestant missionaries to Hawaii converted many to Christianity. A lot of missionaries did it under the guidance of his mother and Curgent. Hawaii turned into a Christian monarchy with the signing of the 1840 Constitution. The death of King Kamehameha, the bachelor of Kamehameha V, resulted in an election of Lunilli, and he died the next year without an heir, so eventually the election was contested into it. And of course, then riots broke out, and eventually the British and Americans had to put down the riots. Of course, this was beginning the end of the Kingdom of Hawaii, because in 1887 there was a Constitution of Hawaii drafted by white businessmen and lawyers. It stripped the king of its authority. And then in 1893, Lou Okani of a new constitution as an absolute monarch. But of course, during that time, many business leaders and residents formed a coup d'etat against the kingdom, and as a result, the queen was deposed in 1893 and installed a provisional government for American. And eventually, Hawaii became a U.S. territory. Despite opposition from Native Hawaiians, President McKinley passed the resolution to annex the Republic of Hawaii for the United States and became a U.S. territory. Of course, that lasted for another 60 years, of course, until eventually Hawaii became a U.S. state. During that time period between then and now as a state, one notable event that happened was, of course, Pearl Harbor happened in 1941, when the Japanese launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, which damaged a lot of aircraft, but it was the main event that brought the United States into World War II. And Hawaii became a big Pacific base for many American operations in the Pacific as well. After the war, the power of the plantation owners was broken by descendants of immigrant laborers and voted against the Republican Party and brought in the Democratic Party of Hawaii, which dominated for over 40 years. Of course, it turned out in the 1959, Hawaii then became a U.S. state. And Hawaii voted in favor of statehood, and Hawaii became our 50th U.S. state. And as a result, they quickly modernized the area and rapidly grew the tourism economy, and later promoted Hawaiian culture. So that is the history of Hawaii for you. That's a bit about Hawaiian history. Hawaii, of course. We're going to go ahead and cover one of the big areas here. So to our right, the island we see to our right, that is Maui. On the island of Maui here to our right is Maui. As you can see, Halikala, part of Halikala National Park up here. So the island we're going to be flying over to is the island of Kaho'olaui, the smallest of the 8 main islands in Hawaii. Only just 11 miles long and 6 miles wide. Relatively dry, And of course, historically, it's always been sparsely populated, and it was used as a training ground and bombing range by the armed forces of the U.S. After decades of protests, the U.S. Navy ended their training exercises here, and eventually became part of Hawaii. There it is. There's their little island there. So let's talk a little bit about geography of Hawaii for a bit. Let's talk a little bit about geography and climate as we head to Maui, of course. Geographically speaking, Hawaii's geography, of course, being um, Hawaii, there are about 8 main Hawaiian islands. 7 are inhabited, but only 6 are open to tourist locals. The 8 main islands that are visited is the Big Island of Hawaii, Maui, Oahu, Kauai, Molokai, Lanai, Niihau, and Kaulau. And of course, only 2 are open to tourists. Only 6 of them are open to tourists. The other ones that are not open are Niihau and Kahului. The second to last one is actually privately managed by both Bruce and Keith Robinson. Of course, Hawaii's tallest mountain is Mauna Kea. It is its tallest mountain, over 13,000 feet above sea level. However, measured from the base, it is actually taller than Mount Everest at about 33,000 feet above sea level. And the Hawaiian Islands are mainly formed by volcanic activity initiated by an undersea magnet source called the Hawaii Hotspot. And it's still going on even now as it builds new islands. The tectonic plate beneath much of the Pacific Ocean casually moves northwest, and the hotspot remains stationary, slowly creating new volcanoes, which eventually builds more of the islands in modern Hawaii. Which is pretty interesting to know about. And of course, a big part about its Hawaiian stuff as well. Of course, for terms of nature and stuff, Hawaii has quite a bit of unique flora and fauna. Of course, unfortunately, the major issue in Hawaii is that there's a lot of endangered species and has lost more endemic species than any U.S. state due to the fact that the issue was a lot of invasive species came into Hawaii, not just plants but animals here too. But of course, there's some unique animals. The Hawaiian monk seal is one of the unique species of animals here on the island, and very many unique plant animals. In terms of climate, Hawaii's climate is pretty tropical. Temperature and humidity, however, tend to be less extreme due to the near constant trade winds from the summer highs can reach around 88 degrees during the day, with lows at 75 at night. While in the winter, they're just slightly lower at 83 degrees. And they rarely dip below 65 degrees Fahrenheit at night. The climates vary considerably on each island, and they can be divided into windward and leeward areas depending on locations in the mountains. But basically, it's consistently warm climates. Oh, rest in peace, oh, family. Yeah. So this here is the island of Kalooawa. And yes, people can't really visit this island because, well, there might be some unexplored ordnance in there. So we gotta be a little careful. So we're just gonna briefly fly over the island. So we're gonna head our way over to Maui for a bit. So let's go ahead and cover. Go ahead and head our way over to Maui. We're gonna make our stop here in Honolulu for our first full stop of the day. Papa Hotel. So let's talk about this airport here. Kauai, Hawaii is the main city of the island of Maui, home to both harbor, industrial areas, and commercial shopping centers. Population 20,000 people. It has several malls and stores for a lot of this area. Of course, its economy is mainly those of other employers like Walmart, Maui Electric Company, Macy's, Aloha Air Cargo, Zippy's, and more. But mainly it's an industrial area. But of course, it features the Gateway. Other attractions include the Alexander Baldwin Sugar Museum, the Kahana Pond State Wildlife Sanctuary, and the Maui Arts and Cultural Center. And you can also find Lahaina's main airport here too, Papa Hotel. And that is Kauai Airport. It's the main airport on the island of Maui. Have been around since 1952. It's the second busiest airport in the U.S. state, only trailing Honolulu. But of course, the air route between Honolulu and Kahului is one of the most trafficked air routes in the country, with over 1.6 million passengers flying into the airport from the route. The name actually, OGG, is actually referencing Bertram J. Hogg, an actual native of Kauai who worked for the Hawaiian Airlines. Of course, last year, 7 million people flew in and out of Maui International Airport. from Maui Airport, and it features destinations from across North America: Vancouver, Portland, San Diego, Seattle, Dallas, LA, Phoenix. Honolulu, of course, is the busiest air route. Kona, Las Vegas, Lihu, Long Beach, LA, Sacramento, San Jose, even Chicago and Denver. But yes, this is a very popular airport to fly in and out of Hawaii. This is Haleakala. Not going to fly near it, of course. So this is one of the national parks we'll be visiting on our trip, is this one. And yes, we'll get to land on top of the peak. Is Maui the big island? No. The island of Hawaii is the big island. This right here, this island here, Strodev, this is the big island. It's the largest of all the Hawaiian islands. This one. This here is the smallest island. This is the biggest. But no, Maui is not the biggest island. In fact, if you look at the island sizes and look at the size of the islands, Maui is actually the second biggest island, but it is much smaller than. In fact, it's about over 5 times smaller than the big island of Hawaii. So yes, it is not a big island. It's bigger than all the other ones, but it's still leagues smaller. But no, it's not the big island. Hawaii's the big island. We're gonna go ahead and turn left. There's Maui. There's the rest. There's the other half of Maui, the Forest Reserve. We're about to make our landing here. Now, we actually landed this airport before a few times on our series. So, we'll land here for a bit. We'll explore the rest of it, and then we'll prepare for the next leg. We're gonna go ahead and land back here at the airport, and we're gonna make our stop here. Land right here it is, guys. Our first full stop. We'll stop here for about a minute or two. Prepare for the next leg. So we'll stop here. So we're going to go ahead and prepare for the next leg of the trip. We're going to be heading over to Maui. To Ford Island will be our next stop. Be quite a considerable amount of leg. Go ahead and prepare the next leg. So our next place is going to be Lahaina is going to be where we're going to be flying over next. Of course, the beautiful city of Lahaina. This town was a population of 100 at the 2020. Its population was 12,702 people. And of course, Lahaina was a hugely popular tourist attraction. It had tons of restaurants, a beautiful historic district. Whale watching was really popular here, a museum ship as well, and all that. However, unfortunately, the big issue was a whole series of wildfires on. Um, it had tons of really beautiful stuff. However, in 2023, on August 8th and 9th, much of it was destroyed by wildfire due to dry, windy conditions exacerbated by Hurricane Dora, which caused 102 fatalities occurring in the town. And a real and utter shame because Lahaina was an absolute beautiful, beautiful town. Never got a chance to see what Lahaina looked like prior to being burned down. It was a historic, very beautiful town, and now the fire has been absolutely just devastating. It was just burned to the ground. I hope someday this area gets to be rebuilt back from the fires. It's still in the, even still now, it's still in the early stages of still trying to recover. It's just been rough. I absolutely been rough. It's just been rough. Hey, we have a raid from MDA. Good to see MDA009. I hope you had a great stream. If you guys don't know, I'm FiberStrike95. I've been flying since 2021. We're on our final U.S. state of the series, actually. We're in the beautiful state of Hawaii. So, I hope you're all doing well, MDA. I hope you had a great stream. So, we're flying from the Big Island, from Hilo, all the way to Barking Sands Pacific Missile Range Base. We're flying through all the major islands in Hawaii. We're actually over the now destroyed town of Lahaina. It was absolutely ravaged by the wildfires. It was just absolutely terrible. But I hope you're having a great day yourself. I'm doing very, very well. I'm happy to get the series over this week. We're gonna get ready. Oh, nice, the MH-60. That I heard is a pretty solid helicopter. Really nice. Um, Thank you for the shout out, Typhon. I really do appreciate it. So this island here is the island of Lanai. This island here is actually the sixth largest island of the chain and the smallest publicly accessible island in the chain. It's known as the Pineapple Island, and this is because of its past as an island-wide pineapple plantation. However, the oldest settlement of note is the town of Lanai City, which is just about 3,000 people, and about 98% of the island is actually owned by the co-founder and chairman of the Oracle Corporation, Larry Ellison. Yes, most of it is privately owned, it turns out. The area is around 140 square miles, making it the 43rd largest island in the U.S. And it's separated by the Kauai Channel from the rest of Molokai. And as visible through imagery, many of the landmarks are only accessible by dirt roads due to the lack of paved roadways. But yes, this is the small island of Lanai. Believe it or not, there's actually one island that's actually privately owned, and it's actually just west of our final stop, Niihau, which is actually owned by the Robinson. They actually now currently own that island. Pretty interesting stuff. There are actually two islands that almost one's completely privately owned, and the other one is all but 2% of it. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, if you guys know me, next week we're going to be starting 2 brand new series for the channel. On next Friday, we'll be starting our all countries trip, our brand new one. We'll start in Afghanistan. We're going to fly from Herat over to Kabul. We're going to go Herat to Tarkankot, and then fly from there straight to Kabul. We'll be taking probably a King Air or something and fly over the high altitude mountains of Afghanistan. And then on Sunday, next Sunday is going to be the National Park Series, which we're going to take some bush planes and we're going to fly over from Boise over to Butte. So we'll be doing some bush landings in Idaho just to get prepared for what the series is going to have to come. So, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous here. Hawaii is absolutely pretty here. There's Lanai City. Definitely tell. Hawaii looks fantastic in the new city. Just gorgeous. Now, one of the really cool things about the next island we're going to be flying to in Hawaii is going to be the island of Molokai, the 5th most populated of the 8 islands here. It's actually 38 by 10 miles as grade length and width. It's the 5th largest island in the main Hawaiian Islands. Of course, historically, its agrarian economy has been driven by cattle ranching, pineapple production, sugarcane production, and small-scale farming. Tourism comprises a small amount of the economy, and much of the infrastructure was closed and barricaded in the early 2000s when the primary landowner ceased operation due to revenue loss. So, yeah, not really visited by tourists, but because of it, though, it's still really pretty. And it's home to many endemic plant and animal species, however, many of those are extinct. So, the mo. So, yeah. We're in the Baron today. I thought this would be a good aircraft for today. Over the beautiful island landmark. No worries, MD. I know you're probably late being in Australia, of course. I completely understand. It is very late. But thank you so much. We actually got one more leg left to go on the series, actually, MDA. got Washington, D.C. Sunday. I wanted to do a bonus stream for D.C. It is our nation's capital, so I just had to do it. So, but thank you so much for the kind words, MD. I hope you get some good sleep tonight, my dude. See you again soon, MDA. So let's talk a bit about Hawaii's economy. Yeah. So Hawaii's economy it used to be much more agriculturally based back in the old days. However, the Hawaii economy can be traced to five dominant industries: sandalwood, whaling, sugarcane, pineapple, the military, tourism, and education. Of course, sugar plantations grown a long foothold of the economy due to high demand sugar in the United States and rapid transport via the steamships. And much of these plantations were monopolized by businessmen and missionary families known as the Big Five. And by the time Hawaii was annexed into the states, sugarcane producers turned into new profits with tropical fruits, most notably the pineapple. Yes, pineapple grew here. Now, if you aren't aware about what a pineapple is, I bet most of you guys probably know what it is. But if you don't know about it, it's actually part of the Bromeliaceae family of flowering plants. It's actually indigenous to South America and was introduced to Europe in the 17th century, but it has grown in many tropical plantations. The reason why they grew a lot in Hawaii was because of its climate. Its tropical climate actually was very conducive to planting pineapple. And the flesh and juice is, I actually like pineapples. They're actually really good. Pineapples are really cool. Of course, became part of its plantation, and then of course, when Hawaii did become a state, then it shifted to tourism, which people took advantage of Hawaii's tourism due to, well, I mean, tropical paradise. It attracted so many people to come visit Hawaii. In fact, tourism became over 25% of the gross state product in 1997, despite efforts to diversify Hawaii. Also, Hawaii is also very expensive. In fact, Honolulu is comparable to that of other U.S. cities, like New York and San Francisco. But Honolulu is quite expensive to live due to, well, Hawaii's challenges, long distance from the mainland being a big one. But Hawaii definitely has a lot of things going for it as well. It really shows Hawaii has two. So this is Molokai Airport. To our left, there is that is the Molokai volcano and natural reserves here in Molokai Island. So there's definitely a lot of things going for it in this part of Hawaii. Yeah, we're just not very far from Honolulu, guys, and there's a lot about Honolulu that we'll talk about here when we get to the Honolulu area. Yes, Hawaii is definitely a place I would love to visit. I didn't get a chance to visit last time when my parents went for their honeymoon, for their anniversary and stuff. They went to Hawaii. So I'm looking forward to coming to Hawaii for the first time. We're going to be heading to Hawaii pretty shortly. It won't be taking too much longer. So we're going to head over to Honolulu, guys. The great city of Honolulu, Hawaii. Beautiful city of Honolulu, Hawaii. It's the capital and largest city in Hawaii. This big city has a population of 350,000 people. Its metro area, however, is over 1 million residents. It's the 56th largest metro area in the country. The name Honolulu is Hawaiian for sheltered harbor or calm point. And it makes sense because as a historical port, it was the most important port for the U.S. military. It has been the capital of the Hawaiian Islands since 1845 as part of the Hawaiian Kingdom, then later became the state. Honolulu is the westernmost and southernmost major U.S. city. It is the main gateway of Honolulu, of Hawaii, to the rest of the world. It's characterized by a mix of Asian, Western, and Pacific cultures, reflecting its diverse demographics, culture, cuisine, and traditions. It has been very popular tourist thanks to its tropical climate, rich natural scenery, and extensive beaches, making it a global destination with 1.5 million visitors in 2024. But yes, there's a lot about Honolulu that is really cool to visit. Of course, Honolulu has got some really cool places to visit, including the large museum in the city, the Bishop Museum, which contains a lot of its collection of natural history specimens and a collection of Hawaiian and Pacific cultural artifacts. It's also got its own zoo and aquarium. It's got it's actually got a museum of art, which is the large collection of Asian and Western art in the state. And there's tons of tourist attractions, including Diamond Head, which we'll be flying over. Diamond Head. We have, of course, the National Museum of National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific, the USS Arizona Memorial, the Lilani Palace, the former royal palace of the Kingdom of Hawaii, Alola Tower, and more. But it is a very important landmark. And Hawaii definitely has some really cool things going on. Honolulu, really great city. Well worth checking. So, but of course, one of the places we're going to be visiting here on our way to Honolulu will be the Pearl Harbor National Memorial. This is part of the National Park Service system in Oahu, and it became a national monument, national memorial in 2019, and it commemorates the events of the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, that killed 2,400 Americans and sank ships. This national memorial contains sites including the USS Arizona Memorial, the USS Utah Memorial, the USS Oklahoma Memorial, as well as the bungalows on Ford Island and Battleship Row. It features a visitor center and park galleries in the Pacific Theater of World War II. And from it, you can visit the USS Missouri, the USS Bowfin Museum, and the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum. All of them are historic attractions. But yes, if you ever get a chance to learn to go to Honolulu, definitely want to go check this place out. Really cool. And our next stop is Ford Island. This island here is an insulet on the Cerro Pearl Harbor, Oahu. It's been known quite a few names, but eventually became Ford Harbor, Ford Island, when it was named after Dr. Seth Porter Ford. Of course, for the ancient Hawaiian times, it was actually used as a fertility ritual. However, it was stopped by Christian missionaries in the 1830s. And of course, Ford Island was then sold to the U.S. Army as an aviation division, and then it was taken over by the U.S. Navy. Still, though, it still serves today, though it's still even being used today. For the military, it hosted military functions, including the Pacific Warfighting Center, and civilian functions like the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center are still what it's being used for today. It's also been featured in films such as Tora Tora and Pearl Harbor, which receives tourists from the U.S. and abroad. Here it is, guys. We're about to reach into the island of Honolulu. We're gonna finally make it to the island. We're finally in Honolulu. We're gonna take things nice and slow, and we're gonna head over and land at Ford Island. So we're gonna head over to Honolulu. So you know what, Mercy, he's gonna start early. So maybe if we get here on time, we're gonna raid Merc's channel, raid him first. Here it is, guys. We're gonna be into Honolulu. Yes, this is the first time Honolulu is gonna get photogrammetry finally. This is Diamond Head. We're flying to over first. Over here, you can find the state monument. This is Diamond Head. Go ahead and so to our left is the National Memorial of the Pacific Cemetery. There it is, guys. This is downtown Honolulu. What a beautiful city here. Looks good in photogrammetry here. There's Punchbowl Crater, and from here you can find the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. For all those people who perished during the Pacific Theater. To our left is Honolulu International Airport, the main gateway to the Hawaiian Islands, to Hawaii itself. I would not mind if this became a hub for Fireflyer. I think it would be a pretty cool hub to have one in Hawaii. We could do some flights across the Pacific. We could do some stuff to some of the Pacific Islands. This here is the Missouri Battleship Memorial. So there's Pearl Harbor, everyone. There's Aloha Stadium. There's Ford Island. Here we've got the U.S. Arizona Memorial, Missouri, for the ships. Let's go ahead and prepare for the landing here at Ford Island. Welcome to Ford Island. here. Alright guys, we still have one last leg left to go here in Honolulu, of course. We still gotta go to Honolulu. We'll remain right here for a bit. We got one last leg left. We'll get back in here shortly, and we're gonna make our way to the last stop. Alright, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about the other parts of Hawaii for a bit. Let's go over Hawaii's culture for a bit as we prepare for the last leg here in Hawaii. Let's talk about the culture of our state here. Hawaii has an extremely rich cultural heritage. From the Aboriginal Polynesian peoples all the way to foreign culture from the United States, Chinese, Filipino, Japanese, Korean, and all that make a very unique part of Hawaiian culture. Of course, some key customs and etiquette here, including when you visit a home, bring small gifts for one's host. And parties usually form in potlucks. Many locals take their shoes off before entering a home. It's customary for Hawaiian families, regardless, to hold a luau to celebrate a child's first birthday. It is customary in Hawaiian weddings, especially for the Filipinos, for the bride and groom to do a money dance. That's just at least some of the cultural things that go on in Hawaii. Of course, one big part of Hawaiian culture is the cuisine, and it features a fusion of many foods brought to immigrants to the Hawaiian Islands, including the Polynesians, native cuisine, American, Chinese, Filipino, Japanese, Korean, Polynesian, Puerto Rican, and Portuguese origin. Plant and animal food sources are imported from around the world for agriculture use. One traditional food of the island is known as poi, which basically is a starch made by pounding taro, a root vegetable. And many local restaurants also serve the ubiquitous plate lunch, which contains 2 scoops of rice, simplified version of American macaroni salad, and a variety of toppings like hamburger patties, fried egg, gravy, a loco moco, Japanese style tokunasu, or the luau favorites of Hawaiian pork, and laulau, which is also used the taro leaves. are some of the very popular parts of cuisine. Also, really funny enough, one very popular thing about Hawaiian cuisine. What if I told you that Hawaii is one of the biggest eaters of spam in the world? Yes, spam has been popular for Hawaii for decades, and they're the second largest consumers of spam behind Guam. And it was brought to Hawaii with American servicemen in the rations. Spam was actually something that was used a lot in rationing, and it became an important source of protein for locals after fishing was prohibited during World War II. In 2005, more than 5 million cans of spam were eaten by Hawaiians. We used fried rice. It can be wrapped in its gear for deep fried or even used for onigiri and stuff too. But Hawaii has a very distinct. Of course, the music's also just as rich as the music. Um, Hawaii's music includes both traditional and popular styles of music, from native Hawaiian folk music to modern rock and hip hop. Of course, styles such as slap key guitar are well known worldwide, while Hawaiian teenage music is a frequent part of Hollywood soundtracks. Hawaii has also made contribution to country music in the form of the electric guitar, of the steel guitar, which is very popular for a lot of it. Of course, still today, um, traditional folk music is still a major part of its music culture and heritage here in the state. And the Hawaiian people have inhabited the island for centuries, retained much of the traditional music knowledge, and it's mostly religious in nature, but includes chanting and dance music, are all major parts of Hawaii's rich musical heritage. And believe it or not, music from Hawaii also played a major impact on those of the other Polynesian islands. And other Pacific music. Of course, sports are a big deal, but Hawaii is pretty different from many other states. Its sports are most well known due to its distance. Team sports in Hawaii are mainly youth, collegiate, and amateur teams. They're not professional. There have been professionals in the past, but again, they've never been successful because of cost. Most notably, the biggest sports are college sports, and many events include Maui Invitational Tournament, Diamond Head Classic, and the Hawaii Bowl. There's only one Division I program in Hawaii, that being the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, which compete in the Big West and Mountain West sports. But one big sport is maybe considered the state sports is surfing, actually. It's been a big part of Polynesian culture for centuries. Since the late 19th century, Hawaii has been the major site for surfists around the world, including the Triple Crown surfing and the Eddy. And Hawaii has produced elite level swimmers as well. Hawaii has had golf tournaments, the Ironman World Championship, the Ultraman Marathon, and more. But basically, Hawaii is more amateur and stuff. But I guess, considering Hawaii's been more laid back, it's definitely pretty understandable. And finally, the last major thing is tourism. Tourism is a big deal in Hawaii, and it represents a quarter of its economy. Over 10 million visitors visited in 2019. And of course, tourism is very popular. However, the one downside of Hawaii's tourism is it kind of resulted in people trying to exploit Hawaiian culture as cultural prostitution. And it kind of hurts some of the locals as well. As a result. And as a result, it's also done damage affecting the environment more. So that's definitely a double-edged sword. Is Hawaii's tourism has been a double-edged sword. definitely pretty interesting stuff going on here too. So, I hope you guys are doing well here. So, we're going to go ahead and cover some more slides, obviously. Let's talk a little bit about Hawaii's fun facts and stuff. And let's talk about the next slide. Transportation. Of course, a big problem in Hawaii, obviously, is transportation. There's a system of state highways encircles each island. However, the only Oahu has federal highways. It is the only area outside the contiguous 48 to have signed interstate highways. But of course, one big part about Hawaii that needs to be talked about for transportation is aviation. And Honolulu International shares highways with Hickam Field is the major transportation field in Hawaii. It's the major commercial aviation hub of Hawaii, but also and it connects to North America, Asia, Australia, and Oceania. It even has its own air carrier, Hawaiian Airlines. At one point, Hawaii actually had a network of railroads on each of the larger islands that transported far commodities and passengers. But of course, nowadays it's not as big nowadays. But yeah, the big air carrier is aviation. It's the quickest way to get through a lot of Hawaii. So that wraps up about that. And now here are some fun facts about the Aloha State. The official state motto of Hawaii is Ua Mau Kau Ia o Ka Aina I Ka Pona, which is the line that translates to the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. The Honolulu Zenith Star is Arcturus. The Hawaiians call it the Hokulea. 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 The largest contiguous ranch in the United States is Parker Ranch near Kamalea. It has around 480,000 acres of land. At 800,000 years, Big Island is the youngest of the Big Island chain. Yes, it's actually the youngest. However, it was the first one discovered by voyaging Polynesians. Hawaii is unique as it has its own time zone, and there's no daylight savings time either. The time runs 2 hours behind Pacific Standard Time and 5 hours behind Eastern Standard Time. And of course, lastly, Hawaii is actually the most isolated population center on the face of the earth. Yes, Hawaii. It's 23,000 2,300 nautical miles from California, 3,800 miles from Japan, 4,900 miles from China, and 5,200 miles from the Philippines. So yes, this is the most isolated population center on Earth. It's Hawaii. And here are some notable people from the state, including the first Japanese-American elected governor, George Ariyoshi, tour wrestlers Salvea Etisano, Hiram Bingham, he actually lived in Honolulu during his time, Charles R. Bishop, banker and philanthropist, Sanford B. Dole, one of the territorial governor and probably the namesake of the Dole Fruit Company, Gene Erdman, dancer and choreographer, Hiram L. Fong, the first Chinese-American senator, Don Ho, entertainer, Senator Daniel K. Inouye, the namesake of Honolulu International, Duke Poa Kahamuku, Olympic swimmer, the first Hawaiian king Kamehameha the First, the last of the dynasty Kamehameha the Fifth, poet George Parsons Lathrop, the last Hawaiian monarch Liliuokalani, and astronaut Ellison Onizuka. So yeah, that's going to be some of the famous people of Hawaii here as we speak. So we just left, and we're heading our way over to the last island of this. We're going to fly around this area. So I hope you guys are enjoying this flight. I know it's been quite a fun trip, being to Hawaii, of course. Yeah, he's live, so we're going to about hand him over to. So we're going to head over to Lihu for our first waypoint. We're going to fly to Lihu. So we're going to prepare for when he's. So our next place is going to be Lihu, which will be our first waypoint. Lihu, Hawaii will be our first waypoint is Lihu. This is the second largest town in the island of Kauai. Population 5,000. This area is, at earlier ancient times, it was a small village. However, it grew with the sugar industry in the 1800s. It became the central city on the island with a sugar mill, with investors like Henry Air Pierce, Charles Reed Bishop, and William Little Lee. And again, more people settled around this area during the 1880s, and it became one of the biggest plantation stops in Hawaii. Nowadays, the grounds are also the site of many luau's, which you can book through Norwegian cruise line, as well as the Kauai Museum, which details the history of the island. And our final stop is Pacific Missile Range Facility, Papa Hotel Bravo Kilo. This U.S. Naval facility is located 5 miles northwest of Kikikaha, and it's the world. And this area is the world's largest instrumental, multi-dimensional international testing and missile range. U.S. military and contractors favor its relative isolation, ideal year-round climate, and encroachment-free environment. And it's the only region in the world where submarines, service ships, aircraft, and space vehicles can be operated and tracked simultaneously. And it features a 6,000-foot runway with operation base and maintenance facilities. So that is where we're going to be stopping today. Here is Lihu, and there's the airport. We're gonna fly over Waimea Canyon, and then we'll go ahead and here it is, guys. Our last stop. Yep, we're entering Waimea Canyon, which is where we're going to be our last waypoint. Yeah, beautiful canyon here in this part of Hawaii. Absolutely gorgeous. Here we go, guys. So here it is, guys, Waimea Canyon. Yeah. Beautiful Waimea Canyon. Absolutely. We're going to go ahead and just... Just gorgeous. Look at this canyon. That's just gorgeous. Mm. So here we go, guys. Our final stop, Barking Sands Airport. That's it, everyone. We made it to Barking Sands base. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed um our trip. And yes, this is the final state in this series. We finally get this done. That's the 50th and last state in the United States. However, we still have one more stream left of this series. We'll be back on Sunday. We'll fly over to our nation's capital to complete the series for one last stream. So, guys, thank you all so much. So we're gonna raid to the one, the only, the two-tone Murphy himself. Guys, take care, everyone, and have a great start to your weekend. Take care and see you all soon. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great rest.